Particularly you're having, if not, we'll just go through the lesson here. So I don't know if you're familiar with Jupyter notebooks, but I'm going to be running the data structures and the file handling for the week 2 lesson in this. So as you can see, we have our data directory. We've done our import OS from the path library. We're importing the path. We're going to create the data directory for the file operations. So I've created a path for week 2 data, make the directory is created. You can see the terminal put them here. And then if you look over here, you will see following that file path up in the DMV is creating our files. So the objectives today, we're going to be working with lists, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. We're going to read from and write to files. We're going to import and use modules like I just did right there. And use simple operating system operations and keyboard inputs. Stop me at any time if you have questions, jump in. Since it just looks like this is a one-on-one here. So let's get started with lists. As you can see, they're one of the most versatile data structures in Python. Yeah, the lists are ordered, meaning that the items have a defined order that will not change. But that doesn't mean that they're not mutable, which means you can change, add, or remove items in the list after it's been created. So if you wanted to add oranges to this list, you would append with oranges. And then when you print, you do for loop for fruit and fruits, print fruit, you'll see that orange is now in the list. Make sense? That's about it. All right. Create a list of numbers. Add 2 items, remove 1, and print the final list. So again, we're using the append right here. See when you run it, it's going to add 673. Or I mean 6, 7, and then it's removing 3. And because the list is ordered, you can see it's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So conversely, if we were to then what's that? Yeah. So say you wanted to add numbers and 0.25, this, and numbers. And, and 4. See, once again, it goes order of whole numbers. So you're floating. Put my mouse and click no problem. Do you still see, or do you need to start back up a little bit? Okay, perfect. All right. Any questions so far? All right. I'm gonna leave your silence as an okay for me to make 100 different Akira jokes during this hour. All right. When you say you missed the beginning, do you mean week 1 or just the beginning of this? Okay. All right. I can back up. That's not a problem. So right now we're just starting with lists. So the list is going to be one of the most versatile data structures that you begin with. So, like I was pointing out, they are ordered, although in the strings, it gets really complicated as to how they're ordering them because of the way the letters are. So I'm not going to go into all of that. We'll just assume that they're ordered apple, banana, cherry, and then orange, maybe because A, B, C. It's probably what it is. But when you start doing capital letters on top of lowercase letters, it changes the ordering as well as yeah, I can show you right here. So if we were to add apple with a capital and cherry with a capital, and this one not very healthy. It's lowercase donuts. We'll run it. Let's see that in your ordering, it's going to go lowercase first, then uppercase, and then back to lowercase. So the why behind that gets a little complicated. So you can't necessarily assume it's going to go in ascending order just because that's the way you're alphabetizing it. But that's not really anything you need to worry about at the moment. Then with numbers, it's got kind of the same little quirks because as you see, I added a floating point decimal in here and dropped it in after the 7 before the 10. So again, if we were to add, say, well, maybe it's more interesting. Let's do 6.98, 7.1, 5.9, and a 10.2. Just to kind of give you more of an idea. So by its rationale, this is how it orders it. And if we want to take a look at how that's going, so we can do for in numbers, and then you gotta fix your indentation here, of course. Oh, yeah. Let's see what I did there. There we go. Because I didn't put it into this for the for loop to take it is why that was failing. So you can see in the descending order, sometimes it's a little easier to look at. So was 125, then 6.98, 7, 7.1, 9.9, 10.2, then it jumps back to the whole number 6, 7.23, and then 10. So what does that mean? On a higher level, if you're doing like advanced calculations and you are worried about the key value pairs and what ordering it's in, I would assume that you would have to be worried about that. But as of right now, you really don't have to, as you can. Always when you're on coding. Anyway, there's an array of methods that you can put into there to clean that up, which we'll get into here in a minute. So lists, you're going to use a lot of lists. Like you can have lists inside of lists. So if you wanted to add, say, one, Yeah, let's see. Now we have the list inside of the list. And you can continue to nest your lists. And if you really want to get crazy, you put a tuple in there. So say you want a key value pair of number 100. Might get a little mad at me if this closed. Definitely closed. This is where it gets fun. So they're similar to lists, but they are immutable, which means they cannot be changed after they're created. They're also ordered, but they're used to store a collection of related data, such as the coordinates of a point or the dimensions of a shape. So seeing here, our dimensions is doing zero index, so it's pulling the 1920 right there. So if you were to add one, so a little activity here. I was expecting a little bit more than a captive audience of one. So about my tuple, you know why it caught the error here? Because it's type error is going to be not taking the assignment because the tuple is not a key value pair in here. This is the third one. So, right. Yeah, so tuple is like a fancy way of saying three. I mean, a pair, not three. So, so now you got the key value pair right here. Now this is a proper tuple. So now with my tuple right here, it's trying to assign 10 to this. So that's why we're throwing an error because it's not mutable anymore. This tuple will always be this tuple right here. So attempting to reassign it broke it. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. All right. So that's the difference because a list, as you can see up here, we just kept adding more and more stuff to it. Once again, we can nest another one in there and it still won't break it. See, so now we've got list inside of a list inside of a list because numbers is mutable, although it will always be a list. Whatever we put in there, we could even nest another one and put just the three in there. Columns though. Might be a limit. I see why. So because we need an additional one. Because you see you have this one goes to here, this one goes to here, this one closes in here, this one closes there. And then you can tell the cell is now active again. Yeah, yeah, you're right, in bracket. So you know this. The real challenge is coding in front of a blank screen. All right, so yeah, the tuples, that's why we got the error on that. So dictionaries, this is where it gets a little more. So with the curly braces, you're always going to have the key value pair separated by the comma. Have multiple key value pairs, but you can't have, say, like just something by itself and then move on to something else. It would break it. But once you're locked in here, you need to stick with your key value pairs or it's going to get very confused. So you see, you can still change this one like you do a list. Oh, welcome there. And going from there with your key value pairs, even though this one is a string and a number, this one is two strings, you know, this one's got an email, but it's still a string. You can do another two value pair where you are doing um and then long number is fine, just as long as you remember to switch over with your commas and you can go back to strings. So dictionaries and tuples, I find, are one of the best ways to do structured data. So I made a little activity here. We're going to do a product, right? Because it's about the easiest way to conceptualize it. So we have a product. Every product has a name. Every product has a price. And then we have a Boolean, whether it's in stock or not. Make sense? And in here, uh, yeah, in here you can add, you know, more parameters as you need to. You can add a category, add the brand. Don't buy Dell, by the way, these are terrible. And, in there you can make another list. So, I mean, another dictionary inside. So, say you wanted the specs. So then again, you're doing your value pairs. You got your RAM, your storage, and your display. Multiple values to a key in a dictionary. Generally, not. But let me check that for you just to make sure. I haven't done that. Yeah, so up in here you wouldn't, but if you wanted to go back and later change something, say you wanted to append X RAM to 8 GB, you can do that because then it's going to change. the mutable list. But when you're first in here, say you wanted to add multiple value pairs to this, I wouldn't recommend it. So let's see, say you have a Ryzen 7. Yeah, so as you can see, it gets a little upset because you have the two value pairs. Does that make sense? So the proper way I would do it would be,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. Proper way I would do something like that would be just to amend it, later because it is a mutable tuple. Like you can always go back like we did right here and change the RAM from 16 to 8 if you wanted to. Because it's going to read from top to bottom. So whatever the last assignment you gave right here, we'll amend it. So sets, we got sets are used to store multiple items in a single variable. They're immutable, unordered, and do not allow duplicate elements. Now, I find sets really handy when, like, say you had my activity down here. Like, say you have a list, right? 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, but you only wanted the unique numbers, right? So by running the set on our integers on my list, it only returns this new list with the unique numbers. So say you had this crazy thing of like this it's, it's, so on and so forth into ad nauseum. And your project just needed to know, is there one of every number between 1 and 15? You can see by doing it this way, you're missing the 8, you're missing, yeah, pretty much just the 8. So you see how that could be a little quicker to sort something if you're trying to, rather than go in there and iterate through it, set will do that for you and organize your numbers for you. So give you more on that later. See, the other direction, not the- There we go. All right. Must have fixed that while I was waiting for you guys. All right, so file handling, right? You're going to see a lot of this when you're opening and you're writing. So lines to write, first line, this is a new line, and there's a second line. So as you can see, it will render in your terminal with the breaks. But feel free to jump in with questions at any time. So if I'm going too fast or anything, just let me know. All right, so modules. This is probably one of the more difficult things to understand when you first come to Python because JavaScript and CSS and everything, you just go in there and start coding. With Python, you're going to import the things that you need. So rather than having to put in the long way for, say, you wanted to print the square root of something, right? So square root 16, right? Instead of having to put, say, a times a, yada, yada, yada equals my answer, you have what's called an import library right here. So math has a method at the end of it called square root. There's also quite a few other ones. You can do powers, do, do power 16 half. It'll give us 4, right? Because 4 times 4 is 16. So instead of having to remember how to do all of these, you have everything in this math library imported already, and then you're calling the math function and giving it the different methods of what you want to work with. Now, imports are important because, as you see, there's an import for just about everything in Python. So in here, we're going to import random. What random is going to do is it's going to take this list. Now that we have this list, it's going to pick a random choice out of there for you. So this is really good when you're doing an initial number seed, like in machine learning, because you can't start from 0. You need to give it a random number to build upon. So you start doing a random seed, you don't have to come in there and hard code a number in every time, which you don't want to do because you want to get randomized results. So therefore, you're going to use a random seed number to start with. All right, so keyboard input. Here we go. Input box just came up that I can't see because my Zoom thing's in the way. All right, so enter. I'm good. All right, so what the input did is it saved what I typed into this variable name so that name equals student, right? That's the default. Had I not put anything in at all and just hit escape, I'm not able to do that because of the Zoom thing. Yeah. So we just left it blank. It's going to be blank. So in here, you would want to that's a little catch to add in there since Zoom is going to be in my way. So you see it's running through. Should have return there. All right. All right, so import OS, you're going to see this a lot. So operating system operations. So you're going to have data structures. So what I'm doing right here is it's listing my directory. So you can see right in here, it's going from week 2 data, data structures, session 2, data structures, which we'll cover on Friday. So list directory is one of the things that is very handy. So recap practice. It's not really much.
I have a question, Eric. When we do import OS, what does it import? Is it specifically like commands from OS, or what does
Right.
it do?
let me pull you up. So import OS. All right. Here. Do you see this screen, my dev docs?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so import OS. So you're gonna have different objects in here. See if we'll just do, yeah, just OS. So you're gonna have decode, open, and device encoding, file system encoding. So the all of these different commands are going to be brought in like with the import of the OS because the entire library is going to be built in here. And so there's your change directory, you know, forward directory, get current working drive, basically the same syntax that you would use in a Linux terminal.
Also, for example, let's say Linux or Mac OS, um, we import, for example, bash commands.
Right.
And then when Windows, it's PowerShell. Like we import those features, or like yeah, like I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, so Bash and PowerShell will be native to your local machine. So like you see in here that I'm using PowerShell, but you can switch to Bash. I also have Linux, there's a JavaScript, but generally, and then Mac has ZHS. So you'll have different commands in there.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, understood. Okay, got it, got it.
yeah, so you see,
What I yeah, what I mean like when we import OS, in what cases we use import OS? You said that it's mostly used in real world, and I just want to see like use cases when and why we import the OS. In what cases?
okay, so when you're running your program, you're going to, let me get a nice example here. Let's just build and let's because your Python is going to be run in your inside the file, right? So like your command prompts, there we go. So you're going to have your make directory. So say you wanted a script that was going to go in and clean up all your folders. You could write it in bin, you could write it in bash, but if Python's your native language, like why not do it this way, right? So this will give me contents of my current directory, created a demo directory, and then because I don't want my directory being filled full of stuff, I have it removing the directory. It's listing the current working directory and the join paths. And so why this is helpful is say later down here in another cell, you're importing a CSV file or you need to open up a tkinter module and you wanted to grab data from somewhere in this directory and you wanted to know how to get around your repository, giving it some of these commands gives it a little bit more flexibility of the program to be able to look around in your drive and see what it's working with.
Oh,
So
I
kind of
see.
like,
Like for example, I have Mac OS, and
mhm,
I am working in my directory with Python. And in order to access other folders inside my Mac computer, I use import OS.
right.
Mm,
Only
got it.
for only for in the program though, because this is all encapsulated inside your Python file, right? So if you're working on like a project with multiple files, you're going to use your terminal. Because think of your terminal, I mean, a good analogy would be like, like the airport, right? This is a hub, flights will come in and out of here. One plane, it'll go from A to B, it'll come back, it'll disembark, and then it'll go back A and B, right? So it's very restricted to what it's doing. Wherein here, you see it's going to look at the entire machine. Does that make a little more sense? Like this is more like the entire airport, where this is just the hub.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. So
Okay.
here OS means whatever OS I'm using, that's what it means, right? It's not like, for example, if I'm using Mac, it's not talking about Windows OS or Linux.
No,
It's
no, it's
it's
gonna be
purely it's purely my machine.
right. It's gonna be
Mhm.
purely this module to be technical because you're importing the Python OS library. So this list of commands with this OS doesn't
I
have to,
see.
it doesn't
I
have
see.
anything to do with this operating system. I can see where
So,
there's the confusion
mhm,
because
got it.
they named it operating system. So you would think, yeah, well, this must interact with my ZSH cell on my Mac, but it's actually a Python library. So let me
Right,
make
right. So macOS has already built-in library that is inside the Python library, and we use that one. Got
right. So there's going to be a lot of different ones. So you can see, say import sys is another one. So let me put together an example of that. Yes. There we go. So system version also could be kind of confusing because you would think system, right? So the system that you're on, like your Mac, but it's not actually your Mac system. It's going to import my Python system. So this is the Python I'm working with, 313. This is my library, which is where we're importing from, the DLLs, and then this is the main zip that it was installed from. So it finds the module search path and then puts everything into my VNV. So they're similar in the way that they work, but it's important to differentiate that this system is not my Windows system here, right? Or your Mac system. It's its own separate entity, and it's
right,
inside
right.
this Python library, right?
Oh, yes, yes, I see. Do you mind copy and paste that code that you just wrote, the import sys? I want to try in my computer.
Of course.
Now I get it. Mhm.
Yeah, I'll give you guys the entire session. So my GitHub fork
Okay,
is
thank you.
yeah, is always open to any of you guys. So I will drop this in our Slack class. So the announcements in the thread. This contains not Jupyter. Oh, from let's see. Yeah, might have been the wrong link. Was the wrong link. It's one moment. That's why. It's for the Python centuries. That's really better. And then I will also drop that here in the chat for you locally. And if you have any trouble like installing the Jupyter notebook or getting it to run, because you are going to have to put in a virtual environment and do a couple installs for the Jupyter dependencies, just reach out to me on Slack and I can walk you through that as well.
Sure. Do you mean the Jupyter in my VS Code?
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
can see
the
what
extension.
yeah, you see with this files, they're not actually Py files. I'm using IPYNDs.
Ah, mhm.
So you can use each one of these cells and actually run the code in here as you go along, and it will do your terminal right here. Yeah, though you don't go
Yeah,
to
I see.
yeah, you don't go to
Got it.
actual Jupyter Notebook. You'd want to install your extension. So I think it should just pop up right there. Yeah, so I have a few of them, man. I just have the main one you need is just Jupyter. So that'll give you the notebook support right here so that you can actually just run the cells.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. Definitely makes life a little bit easier when you're sandboxing this way, because as you can see, you can go in and adjust your code. And if you have an error, like we should have right there, you don't have to rewrite all of this code like you would in something else. You can go in there and you can fix this and then run your code again and your cell will run again. So it gives you kind of a safe space to explore. Mhm. Any other questions you guys got for me? What was yours?
I mean, I think I have just general question on learning. Um, there's so many data structures, and you
Mhm.
have to know one is unordered, one is ordered, one is like with index with no. How do you actually learn this properly? Like, I am so confused. I have to just, I think, just need to memorize those, or
No, I wouldn't memorize them per se. Like you'll get it with muscle memory, like after doing it enough times. And one thing I would recommend is just have documentation available. So I usually hand this out to everybody. If you can keep a dev docs link open, then anytime you need to figure something out, like because 80% of software development these days is knowing where to look for the information.
right, right.
Yeah, and I'll be here twice a week, every week, Akira, and you could Slack me as well if you have any issues.
Sure. Okay, thank you. I just
Yeah.
don't see you in the 101 mentor link. I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I'm a group mentor, but you can DM me anytime. It's not a
Okay.
problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So reach out. It's gonna be a lot. It's still a lot, and I've been doing this for years, like especially when you start adding more languages on top of this. So I would just say just work on fundamentals and don't be too hard on yourself because it's going to take a while and you're going to have to build up a lot of muscle memory. But this is learnable. Like I'm a lot older than I look, and I switched careers in my late 40s. So if I can do it, you can do it. It's just something that takes
Mhm.
time and persistence and patience. You got to be patient with yourself. You got to be patient with your computer.
Thank you very much. It's really motivating and inspiring.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's a lot, but you will find Python's a little bit easier because of the way it's semantically labeled. So like when you're struggling along and you're like, what do I want it to do? A lot of times, like, well, say else. Well, I don't want to do else yet. So what comes next? Oh, well, maybe else if, that isn't what I wanted to do. I could throw that in there and then sandwich in a few more else if statements. Else if.
So it's more
If
like
it did.
intuitive, right? Intuitive language.
Yeah, it's a little bit more on like natural language instead of like JavaScript. So like say you wanted to know the length of something instead of having to do in in JavaScript, you would do, whatever that is, numbers, dot length, and then the thing here and yada yada yada, you know. For Python, it's just length of the numbers. See, if you want to do Math, it's just math, square root, all right? Hours,
Yeah, right, right. Um,
yeah,
I I was thinking, what if like some homework we just do one task, not to completely, but you just give us like a guide on how to solve the task. Let's say, for example, let's say task number one. Oh, which one is shortest? Like, how would you solve? Like, just okay, first we need to do this, and then this, and then this, and then the rest. Like, I'll try to resolve, obviously.
okay. So what I would recommend is don't code it first. I know that sounds crazy, but like write it out in natural language. So say you have a problem that they give you, just break it down. Be like, I want to make an ordered list, and this isn't even like list for Python list. I'm just writing in plain English of my favorite albums of all time, right? Then you would pseudocode that out because you're going to know that you have probably a dictionary of albums, right? And then you're going to want to order that list and sort it. And then you're going to want to see it. So the biggest steps is breaking down the problem into manageable pieces. So I would just start with whichever one you want to look at. Let's see. So let's look at this assignment. I think this is you guys' assignment here. All right, so this is a good one, right? So for a diary, rather than letting the code overwhelm me, the first thing I would do is go to the documentation, right? So we're going to change the assignment two folder of your Python homework folder, right? So we're going to create a program called diary.py, all right? So we kind of did something like that earlier because
Yeah,
then
with
we're
imported. Mhm.
right. So you have an idea of how to attack that. So they're even pseudocoding it out for you. You know the step one, you're going to want to be able to open the file diary.txt for appending,
Yes,
right?
with open file. Yes, yes, as
Okay. And then you can see that you're going to need a loop. So you're going to prompt the user for a line of input. The first prompt. So you're going to want some kind of data validation. And anytime you start getting user input, you want to make sure that you control what they input.
All right. There was try and accept error.
Exactly. You want to plan for errors and you want to kind of control the data they put in. Like, do you want them to be able to put a string of numbers in? Do you want them to only put in an email address or a phone number of so many characters or just a name? Or do you want something, with a .com at the end? Things like that. Like, and that's not something you really have to worry about right now. I just want to get you thinking like for your future self, how do I control the person in the data? Go ahead, Akira. Oh, okay. Just little things. So yeah, just take it one step at a time. Just kind of write it down. Like this exception clause is probably not the way I would go about it. I would go more with how we did over here. Yeah, so there we go. So you're gonna there's your file. So say we wanted to change that file to, what did the lesson say? Yeah, so we wanted to change it to diary.py. So that would be simple enough. We would just go in here and just make sure we're looking for whatever it is. Say it's example.txt, text. And when you're in there and you want to change
What
it,
is data dir? It's the folder of where this file is located, right?
yeah, so this is
Okay,
shorthanded
okay.
for, yeah, for the data directory. So I'm gonna put that, I might have done that up here somewhere. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I signed that here. So when we first imported OS, I imported from there the path library and import path so that it could see this. And
Oh,
then
I see. I see.
I created a variable named data directory so that I would remember what it is when I get way down the page and somebody asks me and I have no idea what I coded way up there. So for my future self, I named it something easy to remember so that when I'm way down here, oh, it's data directory. So I don't know, I don't remember what I put up there, 2 hours ago, but because of the way I named it, I'm able to get an idea of what I was thinking when I did that,
Right, right.
which
And then you kept it inside the variable, so it's easier to pull out the file later too, right? Got
exactly.
it.
So
Mm.
there's the path right there. So instead of having to write that down every time, and
So it's still
then,
like another way of like importing OS. You can import the path. It
mhm,
belongs to OS, right? Yeah, now
yes,
I see. I started seeing the connections. Okay.
yeah. So as you import, it starts giving you more Lego bricks basically into what you're building on. So you started with the starter set, and then you get an expansion pack, and you import that pack, and now you have, like the archway or the door. It's been a long time since I looked at Legos, but you get the idea what I mean. Like,
Yes, yes, I see.
oh, well, we've got a couple more minutes. Any more questions?
No, thank you. It was really useful. Yeah, yeah, you actually explained really well. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or you have any trouble with the notebook, just reach out to me on Slack. I'll always be here.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, guys have a good afternoon.